The stars looked different through the viewport of the UNS Harmony as it moved slowly toward Zenith Prime. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the massive space station grow larger with each passing minute. This was the day humanity had waited for since they first looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. "Captain, we're getting a signal from the station," said Amy Foster from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried a slight tremor that she tried to hide. Everyone on the bridge felt the same nervous energy. Jake turned away from the window. "Put it through, Amy." The main screen flickered and showed the interior of what looked like a control room. But the beings sitting at the controls were not human. One looked like a giant lizard walking on two legs, with dark green scales and yellow eyes. The other seemed to be made of living crystal, its body catching and reflecting light in beautiful patterns. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said the lizard-like being. Its voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Saurian Empire. This is my colleague, Diplomat Velinara of the Ethereal Collective." The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We greet you with peace, young species. We have prepared quarters for your delegation. Aboard Zenith Prime." Jake stepped forward and straightened his uniform. "Thank you for this opportunity. I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the United Nations of Earth. We are honored to meet you." Dr. Lisa Bennett moved to stand beside Jake. She had spent months preparing for this moment, studying what little information Earth had about alien biology. As the mission's chief medical officer, she would play a key role in the cultural exchange. "We have brought our finest representatives," Jake continued. "Dr. Bennett leads our medical team. Engineer Tony Rodriguez manages our technical systems, and Specialist Amy Foster handles all communications." Ambassador Zethkar's eyes moved slowly across the human delegation. There was something in his expression that made Lisa feel uncomfortable, like a teacher looking at students who had failed a test. "Interesting," Zethkar said finally. "You appear even more fragile than our report suggested." Valinara's crystalline body pulsed with soft blue light. "Indeed, such soft skin, no natural armor, no visible weapons or defensive capabilities. How did your species survive long enough to develop space travel?" The question stung, but Jake kept his voice steady. "We survived through intelligence, cooperation, and determination." Zethkar made a sound that might have been laughter. "We shall see. The Galactic Federation has prepared a series of tests for your species. If you pass, you may be granted junior membership status." "Junior membership?" Tony Rodriguez spoke up from behind the captain. His engineering background made him direct in his questions. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means," Velinara explained, "that your species would be protected and guided by the more advanced civilizations of the Federation. Think of it as adult supervision for a child species." Lisa felt her cheeks grow warm with anger, but she forced herself to stay calm. The fate of humanity's relationship with the galaxy depended on these first meetings. "We understand," Jake said carefully. "What do these tests involve?" Zethkar's scaled lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Oh, nothing too difficult for an advanced species. Survival in harsh environments, demonstration of military capability, proof of resilience. Standard requirements. The same tests we give to all potential member species," Velinara added. "Of course, most species have natural advantages. The Titans have armor that can stop plasma weapons. The Vorthan can survive in the vacuum of space. The Kresh regenerate lost limbs within hours. And humans?" Jake asked. "Well," Zethkar chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. "Humans have creativity, I suppose. Though I confess, I am not optimistic about your chances. Amy Foster looked up from her console. Sir, we're being directed to Docking Bay 7. They're ready for us. As the Harmony moved toward the docking board, Lisa could see other ships at the station. Some were massive, clearly built for war. Others had strange shapes that hurt to look at directly. Earth's ship looked small and plain next to these alien vessels. Dr. Bennett. Velinara's voice drew her attention back to the screen. We are curious about human biology. Our medical staff would like to conduct some basic scans, if you do not mind. Of course, Lisa replied. I would be interested in learning about your biology as well. Excellent. Though I should warn you, the differences may be quite shocking. My people, for instance, can survive direct exposure to stellar radiation. Our crystal matrices can withstand temperatures that would instantly vaporize organic matter. Zethkar nodded. My species has redundant organ systems and natural armor plating. We can survive injuries that would kill most other beings. I imagine humans are quite different in this regard. Every species has its strengths, Lisa said diplomatically. Indeed. Zethkar agreed, though some strengths are more useful than others in a dangerous galaxy. The docking process completed with barely a bump. Jake turned to his crew. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Stay professional, stay alert, and show them what humans are capable of. As the airlock cycled open, they got their first smell of alien air. It was clean but strange, with hints of ozone and something that reminded Lisa of copper. The delegation that met them included several species they had never seen before. A massive being that looked like it was carved from living rock stepped forward. I am War Chief Grimm of the Titan Empire. You humans are smaller than I expected. Size isn't everything, Tony muttered under his breath. What was that? Grimm's voice rumbled like distant thunder. He said we're honored to meet you, Jake said quickly. As they walked through the corridors of Zenith Prime, Lisa noticed how the other species looked at them. Some seemed curious, others appeared amused. A few looked at the humans the way someone might look at a pet that had learned a clever trick. The quarters they were given were comfortable but clearly designed for beings much larger and stronger than humans. The furniture was too big, the walls too thick. Everything about the station spoke of species that expected danger and prepared for violence. Tomorrow, Ambassador Zethkar announced as he left them at their quarters, the trials begin. Rest well, humans. You will need your strength. After the aliens left, the human delegation gathered in the main room of their suite. Well, Amy said, that could have gone better. They think we're weak, Tony added. Every single one of them. Jake nodded grimly. Let them think that. We'll show them what humanity is really made of. Dr. Bennett looked out the window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, and billions of people counting on them to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. She had no idea that within days, the galaxy's opinion of human fragility would change forever. The testing facility on Kepler Station looked like something from a nightmare. Jake Morrison stood with his team at the entrance, watching other alien species prepare for their own trials. The Titans moved like walking mountains, their stone-like, skin showing no fear. The Vorthan floated past without breathing equipment, their bodies already adapted for the vacuum of space. First trial begins in 10 minutes, announced a mechanical voice from speakers hidden in the walls. All species report to assigned chambers. Dr. Lisa Bennett checked her medical scanner one more time. The device felt small and fragile in her hands compared to the massive equipment the other species carried. Everyone stay close. If anyone gets hurt, signal immediately. We're going to be fine, Tony Rodriguez said, but his voice shook slightly. The engineer had never been in real combat before. None of them had, Amy Foster adjusted her communication headset. I'm reading multiple alien observers in the control room. They're all watching us. Through the transparent walls above them, Jake could see dozens of alien faces looking down. Some appeared bored, others amused. A few were taking bets on how quickly the humans would fail. War Chief Grimm's voice boomed through the speakers. The furnace chamber trial will test your survival in extreme environments. Temperature will reach 200 degrees. Atmospheric pressure will vary. Gravity will shift randomly. Good luck, little humans. The chamber door opened with a hiss. Heat rushed out like a physical blow, making them all step back. Inside, the room glowed red with heat. Metal surfaces shimmered in the air. Together, Jake ordered. We go in together. The 4 humans entered the chamber. The door sealed behind them with a sound like a tomb closing. Immediately, sweat began pouring down their faces. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. Temperature rising, Lisa reported, watching her scanner. Heart rates elevated but stable. Above them, the alien observers leaned forward. Most expected the humans to collapse within minutes. The Saurians had natural heat resistance. The ethereals could adjust their crystal structure to handle temperature changes. What could soft, weak humans do? But the humans surprised them. Instead of panicking, they worked together. Tony found the coolest spots in the room and marked them. Amy used her equipment to predict the gravity shifts. Lisa monitored everyone's health and distributed water carefully. Jake coordinated their movements, keeping the team functioning as one unit. Impressive teamwork, Velinara noted from the observation deck. Though I doubt they can last much longer. 20 minutes into the trial, the chamber's gravity suddenly shifted. What had been? The floor became a wall. Tony, caught off guard, slammed into what was now the ground. A piece of loose metal struck him in the side. Tony. Lisa rushed to him as gravity stabilized. Blood was seeping through his uniform where the metal had hit. The alien observers murmured among themselves. There's the first casualty, Zethgar said with satisfaction. Humans are too fragile for real trials. But Lisa was already working on Tony's injury. She cleaned the wound and applied pressure. It's not as bad as it looks, she told the others. The bleeding is stopping. What the aliens didn't expect was what happened next. Within an hour, Tony was back on his feet, moving almost normally. The wound that should have kept him down for days was already beginning to heal. How is the injured human still functioning? Asked a Titan observer. Their medical technology must be more advanced than we thought, suggested a Vorthan. The second trial took place in a zero-gravity obstacle course filled with debris and moving barriers. Pilot Kevin Walsh, who had joined them from the Harmony's crew, led this challenge. His job was to navigate through the course while the others followed. Kevin moved through the weightless environment like he was born for it. His body adapted quickly to the three-dimensional thinking required for zero-gravity flight. But halfway through the course, disaster struck. A piece of debris, larger than expected, smashed into Kevin's left shoulder. The impact sent him spinning into a barrier. That caught him across the ribs. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the chamber. "Kevin!" Amy called out, trying to reach him. The alien observers nodded knowingly. Another human casualty. The trial would have to be stopped. But Kevin, gasping with pain, managed to grab a handhold and steady himself. "I'm okay," he said through gritted teeth. "Keep going." "You're not okay," Lisa said, reaching him with her medical kit. "You have at least 2 broken ribs and a dislocated shoulder. Can you fix it?" Kevin asked. Lisa worked quickly, popping his shoulder back into place. Kevin's scream echoed through the chamber, but he didn't pass out. She wrapped his ribs tightly and gave him a pain injection. "This should keep you stable," she said. But you need to rest. No, Kevin shook his head. We finished this trial. The aliens watched in amazement as Kevin continued through the course. Not only did he complete it, but he seemed to get stronger. As time passed, the pain medication helped, but something else was happening. His body was adapting, compensating, healing faster than any alien species had ever seen. Impossible, breathed War Chief Grimm. No being should be able to function with those injuries. The third trial was a simulated combat scenario. The humans had to work as a team to disable a series of automated defense systems while under fire. From training weapons. The weapons were set to stun, but the energy levels were still dangerous. Danny Parker, the communications officer, took point while the others provided support. He moved quickly between cover points, his fingers flying over the control panels they needed to hack. But the defense system was designed to be challenging. An energy blast caught Danny in the leg, sending him sprawling. Another hit him in the shoulder as he tried to get back up. Man down, Jake called out. Lisa crawled over to Danny, while the others provided covering fire. The energy weapon had burned through his uniform and left angry red marks on his skin. For most species, these injuries would mean immediate medical evacuation. Danny looked up at Lisa, his face pale but determined. How bad is it, Doc? Bad enough, Lisa said. You need to stay down. Can't do that, Danny replied. Team needs those security systems down. The alien observers were confused. Why wasn't the injured human being removed from the trial? Why was their medical officer allowing him to continue fighting? Danny got back to his feet, moving more carefully now, but still moving. He reached the next control panel and began working on it despite the burns on his hands. The energy weapon had damaged nerve endings that should have made his fingers useless. Their pain tolerance is remarkable, Velinara observed. More than remarkable, Zethkar replied. It's disturbing. Over the next several hours, something became clear to all the alien observers. The humans weren't just tough or stubborn. They were healing. Tony's wound from the first trial was already closing. Kevin's breathing was getting easier as his ribs knitted back together. Danny's burns were fading from angry red to pink. Request immediate medical scans of the human subjects. War Chief Grimm ordered his staff. The results came back within minutes. All the humans showed signs of accelerated healing. Their bodies were repairing damage at a rate that should have been impossible. What kind of species are we dealing with? Asked a Vorthan scientist. Ambassador Zethkar stared down at the humans as they completed their third trial. They were battered, tired, and injured, but they were still fighting, still functioning, still succeeding. For the first time since the trials began, he felt a cold touch of fear. I think, he said slowly, we may have underestimated these humans. Below in the testing chamber, Jake Morrison looked up at the observation deck. He could see the confusion and concern on the alien faces. They had expected humanity to fail quickly and quietly. Instead, they were getting their first real look at what made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. They just didn't understand it yet, but they would. Soon enough, they would understand exactly what it meant to face a species that refused to stay down, no matter how badly they were hurt. The trials were far from over. The survival trial on Kepler Station's artificial planet surface was meant to be the hardest test yet. The environment changed every few hours, shifting from desert heat to Arctic cold to toxic swamps. Most species needed special equipment just to survive the first hour. Danny Parker wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked on the communication array. The current environment was a crystal forest where sharp glass-like trees stretched toward an artificial sun. Beautiful but deadly. Dangerous. Almost got the signal booster online, Danny called to his teammates. Just need to reach that relay point up there. Jake Morrison looked up at the crystal formation Danny was pointing to. It was about 20 feet high, covered in razor-sharp edges that glittered in the light. That looks dangerous, Danny. Maybe. We can find another way. No time, Captain. The trial requires communication with the station within 6 hours. We're already 3 hours in. Dr. Lisa Bennett checked her medical scanner. The crystal formations are giving off some kind of radiation. Low level, but it's building up in our systems. All the more reason to finish this quickly, Danny said. He began climbing the crystal tree, moving carefully around the sharp edges dot in the observation deck high above. The alien representatives watched with interest. War Chief Grimm had his massive arms crossed over his stone chest. The small human is brave. I will give him that. Bravery and foolishness often look the same, Ambassador Zethkar replied. His species' soft skin cannot handle those crystal edges. Velinara's crystalline body pulsed with blue light. My people could walk through that forest without harm. Our natural crystal structure would protect us. But organic flesh against those edges? She made a sound like breaking glass. That might have been a sigh. Denny was halfway up the crystal formation when it happened. One of the branches he was holding broke under his weight. Sharp crystal fragments cut across his arm and chest as he fell. He landed hard on more crystal growths, the impact driving several pieces deep into his left leg. Danny. Amy Foster rushed toward him while Lisa grabbed her medical kit. The alien observers leaned forward. Finally, they would see a human casualty that would end the trial. The injuries were severe enough that even the hardiest species would need immediate evacuation. Lisa reached Danny first. Blood was flowing freely from multiple cuts across his body. The worst injury was in his leg, where a piece of crystal had gone deep into the muscle. How bad, Doc? Danny asked, his face pale, but still alert. Lisa examined the wounds carefully. For any other species she knew, these injuries would mean the end of their trial participation. The blood loss alone should have been enough to cause shock. It's serious, she said honestly, but I can work with it. Request emergency medical evacuation for the injured human. Came War Chief Grimm's voice over the communication system. Jake looked up at the observation deck. Negative. We're handling it ourselves. Captain Morrison. Zethkar's voice held a note of surprise. Your teammate requires immediate medical attention beyond what you can provide in the field. Dr. Bennett is fully qualified to handle this. Jake replied firmly. The alien observers exchanged glances. Were the humans too proud to admit defeat, or too ignorant to understand how serious the injuries were? Lisa worked quickly, cleaning the wounds and removing the crystal fragments. She gave Danny an injection for pain and another to prevent infection. Then she did something that confused the watching aliens. She simply stepped back and waited. Why? Is their medical officer not doing more? Asked a Vorthan scientist. Where are the surgical tools, the tissue regenerators, the emergency healing systems? Perhaps their medical technology is more primitive than we thought, suggested Velinara. But as the hours passed, something remarkable began to happen. Danny's wounds stopped bleeding much faster than they should have. The cuts on his arms, chest began to close. Even the deep puncture in his leg started to heal. Ambassador Zethkar stood up from his observation chair. This is impossible. No organic being heals that quickly without medical intervention. Request immediate detailed scans of the injured human. War Chief Grimm ordered his technical staff. The scanning beams focused on Danny, who was now sitting up and looking much better than he had an hour ago. The results appeared on screens throughout the observation deck. Incredible, breathed the Titan scientist. His cellular regeneration rate is off the charts. His body is literally rebuilding itself. Dr. Bennett noticed the scanning beams. They're studying you, Danny. Probably. Trying to figure out how you're healing so fast. Should I tell them it's normal? Danny asked with a weak smile. Let them figure it out themselves, Jake replied. 6 hours into the trial, Danny was back on his feet. The wounds that should have hospitalized him for weeks were now just pink lines on his skin. He completed the communication array setup and established contact with Kepler Station. Trial completion confirmed, announced the mechanical voice. Human team has successfully met all requirements. In the observation deck, silence filled the room. Every alien representative stared at the humans in shock. How? Velinara asked finally. How is this possible? Dr. Bennett's voice came through. The communication system. Would you like me to explain human healing processes to your medical staff? War Chief Grimm leaned toward his microphone. Yes, immediately. Lisa was brought to the observation deck while her teammates continued with equipment cleanup. She stood before an audience of alien doctors and scientists, all staring at her like she was some kind of miracle. Human healing begins with blood clotting, Lisa explained, projecting images from her medical database. Special cells called platelets gather at injury sites and form barriers to stop bleeding. How quickly does this process occur? Asked the Saurian doctor. Within minutes for most injuries. Then our white blood cells arrive to fight infection and begin tissue repair. The alien doctors exchanged amazed looks. Most of their species required medical intervention for even basic wound healing. But the cellular regeneration we observed, pressed a Vorthan scientist, the actual rebuilding of damaged tissue. This requires advanced medical technology. Yes? Lisa shook her head. No technology required. Human bodies do this naturally. Our cells contain the blueprints to rebuild themselves. Given proper nutrition and rest, we can recover from almost any injury that doesn't kill us immediately. Show us, War Chief Grimm demanded. Lisa looked confused. Show you what? Demonstrate this healing process. Let us see it happen. I can't deliberately injure myself for a demonstration, Lisa said. But I can show you what happens when injuries occur naturally. She pulled up medical scans from their previous trials. Tony's wound from the metal fragment. Kevin's broken. Ribs, Danny's crystal cuts. Each scan showed the progression of healing over time. Here you can see bone reconstruction occurring without medical intervention. Lisa pointed to Kevin's rib scans. The body creates new bone cells to fill gaps and strengthen the structure. This is beyond our understanding of biology, admitted an ethereal scientist. Our crystalline bodies can repair small cracks, but nothing like this. Most of our species require extensive medical support for serious injuries, added a Titan doctor. Your people heal like the legends describe the ancient regeneration machines. Lisa realized the full impact of what she was revealing. These advanced alien civilizations, with all their technology and power, lacked something humans took for granted: the ability to heal naturally from serious wounds. On Earth, she explained, healing like this was necessary for survival. Our planet went through many dangerous periods. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, wars. Only the species that could recover from terrible injuries survived long enough to evolve further. Ambassador Zethkar leaned back in his chair, his scaled face showing deep thought. So your apparent weakness is actually your greatest strength. We're not weak, Lisa said quietly. We just look different from you. But humans can survive injuries that would kill most of your people. We can keep fighting when others would fall. We can recover from battles that should end us. The observation deck fell silent again. Every alien in the room was processing the same disturbing thought. They had assumed humans were fragile because of soft skin and lack of natural armor. But what if they were wrong? What if humans were actually the most durable species any of them had ever encountered? War Chief Grimm spoke first. If this healing ability is common among all humans, It is, Lisa confirmed. Then we have seriously misjudged your species' military potential. Dr. Bennett looked out at the alien faces surrounding her. Fear was replacing amusement in their expressions. The weak, helpless humans they had been mocking were revealing capabilities that changed everything. Perhaps, she said carefully, it would be better to think of us as partners rather than junior members requiring supervision. Ambassador Zethkar nodded slowly. Perhaps it would. The trials were not over yet. But already, the galaxy's opinion of humanity was beginning to shift. The laughter had stopped. Now came something much more dangerous: respect mixed with fear. The news spread through the Galactic Federation like wildfire. Within hours of Dr. Bennett's demonstration, every major species leader had received detailed reports about human regenerative abilities. The reaction was not what the humans had expected. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters reading message after message on his communication device. Some were requests for more information. Others were demands for immediate medical examinations of all humans. A few were barely hidden. Threats. Captain, Amy Foster knocked on his door. You need to see this. Jake followed her to the main communication center. On the screen was War Chief Grimm, but he was not alone. Behind him stood a dozen other Titan warriors, all looking grim. Captain Morrison. Grimm's voice was formal and cold. The Titan High Command has concerns about your species' capabilities. What kind of concerns? Jake asked carefully. The kind that keep military leaders awake at night, Grimm replied. A species that can survive wounds that would kill our best. Warriors. Soldiers who can keep fighting with injuries that would end battles for any other race. Do you understand what this means? Jake felt a chill run down his spine. We're not a threat to anyone. We came here seeking peaceful contact. Peace is a luxury for those who have the power to defend it, Grimm said. Your people have hidden their true nature from us. We must ask ourselves what else you have hidden. The screen went dark. Jake stood staring at the blank display, realizing that humanity's greatest strength might also become their greatest danger. Dr. Lisa Bennett was having similar problems in the medical wing. She had been answering questions from alien scientists for 6 hours straight, and their tone was becoming more demanding with each session. Show us the limits, insisted Dr. Kren, a Saurian medical researcher. What injuries can humans not survive? I've explained this already, Lisa said patiently. Like any species, we can die from severe trauma. Complete destruction of vital organs, massive blood loss, extreme temperatures. But you recover from injuries that would kill most of us, Dr. Kren pressed. This gives your species an unfair advantage in any conflict. Unfair advantage? Lisa's voice rose. We didn't choose to evolve this way. It's simply how we are. That makes it more dangerous, not less, said Dr. Yix, an ethereal scientist. A weapon that works by accident is still a weapon. The questioning continued for hours. They wanted to know everything about human biology, human healing, human limits. Lisa began to feel less like a colleague and more like a specimen being studied. Meanwhile, engineer Tony Rodriguez was dealing with his own problems. The station's security chief, a massive creature called Commander Vex, had been following him for hours. Is there something I can help you with? Tony finally asked. We're monitoring all human activity, Vex replied in a voice like grinding metal. For station security. Security against what? Against a species that has been lying about their capabilities since they arrived. Tony stopped walking and faced the security chief. We haven't lied about anything. We answered every question truthfully. Did you mention that humans can survive? Fatal injuries? Nobody asked. That's not the same as being truthful. The conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as the mechanical voice announced, Hull breach in Section 7. All personnel, To emergency stations. This is not a drill. Jake and his team met in the corridor outside their quarters. Through the station windows, they could see the cause of the emergency. A massive ship, dark and covered in weapon ports, was attached to the station like a parasite. Pirates, breathed Amy Foster, recognizing the ship design from intelligence. Briefings, void runners. The station shook as explosions echoed through the corridors. Emergency barriers slammed down, dividing the station into sections. Jake's team found themselves trapped in a section that was rapidly losing atmosphere. Emergency masks, Lisa ordered, pulling her medical kit open. She handed out the small breathing devices they carried for emergencies. These won't last long, Tony said, checking his device. Maybe 30 minutes. Another explosion, closer this time. The corridor wall buckled, and metal fragments flew through the air. One piece caught Amy across the face, opening a gash from her ear to her chin. Another struck Tony in the shoulder, spinning him around. "We need to get to the emergency shelter," Jake said, helping Tony to his feet. But as they ran down the corridor, a massive explosion tore through the wall beside them. The blast threw them all to the ground. Lisa felt something sharp pierce her side. Danny's leg was twisted at a wrong angle. Jake was bleeding from multiple cuts on his head and arms. 4. Any other species, the injuries would have ended their involvement in the emergency. But the humans struggled to their feet and kept moving. Through the station's communication system, they could hear the aliens coordinating their response. Many species were retreating to secure areas, unable to function with the injuries they had sustained. The pirates were taking advantage of this, moving through the station with little resistance. "Human team, report status," came War Chief Grimm's voice over the speakers. "Injured but mobile," Jake replied. "Where do you need us?" There was a pause. "You're injured. Report to medical." "Negative. We can still fight." In the command center, Grimm stared at the monitor showing the human team. They were clearly hurt, some seriously, but they were still moving with purpose. His own warriors would be in medical facilities by now with similar injuries. "Commander Vex," Grimm called to the security chief. "What's your assessment of the human team's condition?" "They should be unconscious from blood loss," Vex replied, checking his sensors. "But they're showing normal activity levels. It's impossible." "Not impossible," Grimm said quietly. "We just didn't understand what we were looking at." The human team had reached the emergency shelter, but it was already full of injured aliens. Lisa immediately began helping with medical care, working on species she had never seen before. Her own injury was still bleeding, but she ignored it. "How is she still functioning?" asked Dr. Kren, who was struggling to treat a wounded Saurian. "She has a puncture wound that should have caused shock by now." "Human physiology," Tony explained, helping to move injured aliens to safety. His shoulder was obviously dislocated, but he had found a way to work around it. Danny was coordinating communication between different sections of the station, despite his broken leg. He had fashioned a makeshift splint and was somehow managing to move around. "This is beyond our understanding," Dr. Yix admitted to another ethereal. "They're functioning at near normal capacity with injuries that would hospitalize our people." For months, the pirate attack continued for several more hours. Throughout the emergency, the human team kept working. They helped with medical care, repairs, communications, and evacuation. They did jobs that the aliens couldn't do because of their own injuries. When the Federation fleet finally arrived and drove off the pirates, the human team was still active, still helping, still functioning despite injuries that amazed every alien who saw them. War Chief Grimm found Jake in the damaged section where the attack had started. The human captain was helping to clear debris, his movements careful but steady. "Captain Morrison," Grimm said, "we need to talk." "Of course," Jake replied, setting down a piece of twisted metal. What can I do for you? Grimm stared at him. The human had multiple injuries, had been without proper medical care for hours, and was still offering to help. We were afraid of you, Grimm said bluntly. When we learned about your healing abilities, we thought you might be a threat to the Federation. And now I think we were fools. A species that uses their greatest strength to help others, even former enemies, is not a threat. You are something much more valuable. What's that? You are all eyes we can count on, no matter how bad things get. Jake nodded slowly. That's all we ever wanted to be. As the station began emergency repairs, word spread throughout the Federation. The humans had proven themselves in the most important way possible. Not through demonstrations or tests, but through actions when lives were at stake. The laughter had stopped completely now. In its place was something humanity had never expected from the galaxy: respect, admiration, and the beginning of real friendship. But first, they had to survive one more trial. The biggest one yet. The final trial was supposed to be a simple ceremony. After the pirate attack, most alien leaders agreed that humanity had proven itself beyond any doubt. But as Captain Jake Morrison and his team prepared for the closing ceremony, alarms began. Screaming throughout Kepler Station once again. Multiple contacts approaching. Amy Foster reported from her communication station. It's a full Void Runner battle fleet. Through the station windows, they could see at least 20 pirate ships moving toward them. These weren't the small raiders from before. These were massive warships, bristling with weapons and armor. The earlier attack was just a scouting mission. War Chief Grimm announced over the station speakers. They were testing our defenses. Now they're back for a real fight. Ambassador Zethkar's voice cut through the chaos. All civilian personnel to evacuation pods immediately. Military units prepare for combat. Jake looked at his team. They were still healing from the previous attack. Lisa had bandages around her waist. Danny was using a walking stick for his broken leg. Tony's arm was in a sling. Amy had stitches across her face. Captain, came Grimm's voice directly to Jake's communication device. Get your people to the evacuation pods. You've done enough. Negative, Jake replied. We're staying to help. Your team is injured. You need medical attention, not combat. Our injuries won't stop us from fighting. There was a long pause. Then Grimm's voice returned, filled with something that might have been respect. Very well. Report to battle stations. The human team made their way to the command center. Other alien species were preparing for battle, but many were already retreating to safer areas. The ethereals, despite their advanced technology, were fragile in combat. Several Saurian units had been damaged in the first attack and couldn't fight effectively while injured. What's our tactical situation? Jake asked as they entered the command center. Commander Vex, the security chief, who had been suspicious of humans just hours before, looked up from his displays. 23 enemy ships. Our defense fleet has 8 ships. The odds are not good. What kind of ships do the pirates have? Danny asked, limping over to a tactical display. Heavy cruisers, mostly. Some fighters. All armed with plasma weapons. And void torpedoes. Lisa studied the enemy formation on the screens. They're spreading out to surround the station. Classic siege pattern. You have military experience? Vex asked, surprised. We studied your tactical databases during the voyage here, Amy explained. We wanted to understand how galactic conflicts work. Grimm arrived in the command center, his stone features grim. The Federation fleet is 12 hours away. We have to hold until they arrive. Can we do it? Jake asked. Unknown. We've never faced odds like this with a damaged station and injured crews. The first exchange of fire lit up space around Kepler Station. The pirate ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons tearing into the station's shields. The Federation, Defense ships fought back, but they were badly outnumbered. Shield generators are taking heavy damage, reported a Titan technician. We're losing power to multiple sections. Reroute power from non-essential systems, Grim ordered. Already. Done. It's not enough. Jake watched the battle displays, his mind working through the tactical problems. Commander Vex, do you have boarding pods? Yes, but using them would be suicide. The pirate ships have too much firepower. Not if we target the right ship at the right time. Grim turned to face Jake. What are you thinking, human? Their command ship is staying back, coordinating the attack. If we could disable it, the other ships would lose coordination. They'd have to fall back and regroup. The command ship is the most heavily defended, Vex pointed out. Any boarding. Party would face impossible odds. Not impossible, Jake said quietly. Difficult, yes, but not impossible for humans. Dr. Bennett looked up from the medical station where she was treating wounded aliens. Jake, you can't be serious. A boarding action against that ship would be suicide for any normal species. Good. Thing we're not normal, Danny said with a weak smile. Amy nodded. The captain's right. We could survive injuries that would kill other boarders. We could keep fighting when others would fall. Grin stared at the human team. They were proposing to do something that no other species would attempt. Board an enemy ship while injured, fight through superior numbers, and somehow disable a vessel. Designed to destroy space stations. Gets insane, he said finally. Probably, Jake agreed. But it might work. War Chief Grim made a decision that would change galactic history. Do it. The boarding pod launched from Kepler Station, like a bullet, aimed at the heart of the pirate fleet. Inside, the 4 humans checked their weapons and equipment one final time. Remember, Lisa said as she distributed medical supplies, we don't have to win a fair fight. We just have to survive long enough to complete the mission. The pod struck the pirate command ship with a crash that threw them all against the walls. Before the pirates could react, the humans were cutting through the hull with plasma torches. Boarding party detected, came announcements in the alien pirate language. All units converge on breach point. The first wave of pirates met them in the ship's corridor. The aliens were big, well-armed, and experienced fighters. But they had never faced humans before. Jake took a plasma bolt to the chest that should have killed him instantly. Instead, he staggered, returned fire, and kept advancing. Amy was hit in the leg by an energy weapon that sent her sprawling, but she rolled behind cover and continued providing covering fire. They're not going down, one pirate shouted to another. I hit the small one 3 times. Hit them harder. But hitting humans harder wasn't the solution. Tony took a blast that burned through his side, leaving a wound that would have killed most aliens. He paused long enough for Lisa to slap a pressure bandage on it, then continued toward the ship's control center. The pirates had never encountered enemies who could absorb that much damage and keep fighting. Their formations broke as panic set in. How do you fight enemies who refuse to die? Danny reached the ship's main computer while the others held off the remaining pirates. His hands, burned and bleeding from multiple weapon hits, flew over the alien controls. Got it, he announced. Shutting down their coordination systems now, the effect was immediate. Through the ship's windows, they could see the pirate fleet losing formation. Ships began colliding as their coordinated movements failed. Several vessels broke off from the attack and retreated. Nice work, Jake said, and winced as another plasma bolt caught him in the shoulder. Now we just have to get out of here. The escape was harder than the boarding. The pirates had recovered from their initial shock and were mounting organized resistance. But the humans had something no other species possessed: the ability to fight effectively while seriously wounded by the time they reached their boarding pod. All 4 humans were injured badly enough that any other species would be unconscious or dead. But they were still moving, still thinking, still fighting. The pod made it back to Kepler Station just as the Federation fleet arrived. The remaining pirate ships, their coordination broken and their command ship disabled, fled into deep space.in. The aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded and engineers repaired damage. War Chief Grimm found himself in the station's main conference room with the human team. They looked terrible, battered, bandaged, and exhausted, but they were alive and alert. "I owe you an apology," Grimm said formally. "All of us do." "For what?" Jake asked. "For thinking you were weak. For believing that soft skin meant soft spirits. For assuming that different meant inferior." Ambassador Zethkar entered the room, his scaled face showing emotions the humans had never seen before. "The Galactic Federation Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding humanity's membership application." "Let me guess," Amy said. "Junior membership with supervision?" "Full membership," Zethkar replied, "with an offer of immediate alliance." From the Saurian Empire. Velinara's crystalline form appeared on the communication screen. "The Ethereal Collective extends the same offer. We have never seen such determination combined with such capability." Over the following days, similar offers came from dozens of species throughout the galaxy. The humans who had been mocked as delicate and weak were now sought after as the most valuable allies possible. Dr. Bennett established medical exchange programs with 17 different species, sharing human healing knowledge while learning alien medical techniques. Engineer Rodriguez was recruited by the Titan Empire to help design ships that could survive the kind of damage that would cripple other vessels. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. The knowledge that there was a species that could survive almost any injury, that could keep fighting when others would fall, made many aggressive civilizations reconsider their strategies. "The humans have changed everything," War Chief Grimm told his commanders. "Not through superior weapons or technology, but through sheer refusal to give up. Any enemy that faces them will learn what we learned, that appearances can be deceiving, and that the greatest strength sometimes comes in the form that looks most vulnerable." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Kepler Station, looking out at the stars. His team had completed something